Zhou Marshall directly informed Zhou Zhou, who was cultivating in the reincarnation sacred palace, to let him be in charge of the territory's advancement. As for he himself, he led his Master God tier and Supreme God straight to Zhou Win. Together with the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's army, led by Zhou Win and he, they continued to conquer the other Lord factions on the High Continent. Currently, nearly 1/5 of the entire High Continent had been occupied by the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, which was constantly expanding its territory. In terms of territory alone, the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom was already the #1 Divine Kingdom. Lord faction in the entire High Continent. None other could compare. Almost all the Lord's kingdoms in the entire High Continent could tell that the ambition of the common people's regal was definitely not limited to this. He wanted to conquer the entire High Continent and unify it, becoming the absolute Dihuang of the High Continent. In the beginning, some god spirits had said that Zhou Zhou's behavior was not good. The reason was that the Supreme Continent was the absolute core of the entire Supreme Great Cosmos. It was the common home of all races. If the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom wanted to monopolize the entire Supreme Continent, it would go against the will of all races and the supreme will to establish the High Continent. However, Zhou Zhou did not care about their thoughts at all. Instead, he continued his conquest and expansion path. When some god spirits saw this, they came out to stop it. These god spirits who wanted to stop the expansion of the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom even formed an organization called the Myriad Race Alliance of the High Continent. However, after experiencing a few battles with the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, this organization was quickly defeated by the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's army with absolute superiority in military. Strength, the process could be said to have collapsed with a single strike. Only then did the Lord factions of the High Continent truly realize the terrifying strength of the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. In the face of the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's attack, they could be said to have no power to resist. Even those Divine Kingdom lords were no exception. The strength of the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom under the command of the common people's regal, who had grown to become a Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army, was far from what they could withstand. These Lord factions had also sought the help of Supreme God-level factions in the High Continent, requesting they to stop the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's unrestricted expansion. However, in the face of they's request, these Supreme God-level forces had no intention of agreeing at all. They all rejected it. Only then did they realize something. The Supreme God-level forces on the Supreme Continent rejected their request. The Supreme Will-level forces, and even this divine being, did not say anything to stop them. What did that mean? This meant that all the top factions were tacitly agreeing to the common people's regal's expansion. In other words, they had already tacitly agreed that the common people's regal could occupy the High Continent. Ever since they found out about this matter, the Divine Kingdom Lord factions on the High Continent no longer sought help from outsiders. They only looked for companions on the High Continents that they could work with to resist the Blazing Sun. Divine Kingdom's conquest and expansion. However, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom was too powerful. How could they deal with it by joining forces in a hurry? As a result, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's expansion in the High Continent had never encountered too many obstacles. As for Zhou Zhou, he had long known that the Supreme Continent was the exclusive territory left for him, the Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army. The Lord of 10,000 evils had the ultimate void battleground after all. The Spring and Autumn Dharma Lord had the River of Time, the God King. Heaven, punishment, had the Land of Dusk. These 3 High Continent Reserve Army territories could be said to be each more top-notch than the other. Naturally, when it came to him, they could not be any worse. Therefore, after much consideration, the Supreme Will took over the High Continent. This was what Zhou Zhou had learned when he asked the Supreme Will a question. If it weren't for the fact that the Supreme Will also had the intention to train himself and also wanted the ownership of the High Continent to be more convincing, he would have let Zhou Zhou conquer the Lord factions on the High Continent one by one until he completely conquered the entire he and became the undisputed king of the High Continent. Otherwise, he could have given the order and directly given the High Continent to Zhou Zhou himself. These lords naturally did not know about this. They thought that they were resisting the unlimited invasion of the evil Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. They had no idea that their fate had long been decided by the Supreme Will. On the other side, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace of the Blazing Sun Divine Capital, at the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, at this moment, Zhou Zhou was cultivating in the Time World. He had just broken through to become a Grade 1 Supreme God and needed to stabilize his cultivation. God spirits at his level no longer needed to meditate and refine divine power to stabilize their cultivation. He needed to stabilize his willpower after his advancement. Thankfully, Zhou Zhou had the two supreme treasures, the Premier Heart and the Holy Scripture of the Heart. His will had long reached the intermediate stage will. Divine Transformation Realm. He was not far from the advanced stage will divine transformation realm. Therefore, he only spent about a year in the time world to completely stabilize his grade 1 supreme god cultivation. He slowly opened his eyes. Then he received a message from Zhou Marshall. Have you collected the chaos divine treasures? Much sooner than I thought. A smile appeared on Zhou Zhou's face. Following that, his divine body vanished on the spot. In the sky above blazing sun, divine capital, Zhou Zhou's figure appeared out of nowhere. He looked down at the blazing sun divine capital that was becoming more and more majestic and vast. He felt a little emotional, but he instantly focused on what he wanted to do. That was to upgrade his territory. He had a thought. The next second, 2,000 Gai units of basic materials, 5,000 Master God tier intermediate grade divine crystals, 50 capital units origin crystals, 1,000 units of chaos divine treasures, and 10 units of ultimate void crystals instantly disappeared. A text notification appeared. Congratulations, your Master God tier. Elementary grade, God's Kingdom, Lord's Law, has successfully advanced to the intermediate grade, Master God tier God's Kingdom, Lord's Law. Your territory has successfully upgraded to an intermediate Master God tier territory. Your Master God tier elementary grade, 1 heart array, has been upgraded to intermediate grade. A durability of territory. Stone Stele increased to 50 capital units. 50 capital units. Your territory has expanded to 5 trillion kilomatrix, 5 trillion kilomatrix, 30 million kilometers. You have expelled all the fog monsters in the territory of the new territory. The Scarlet Fog will not appear in any of your territories. You have received an upgrade reward. Mythical tier building blueprint treasure chest, Master God tier intermediate grade, Lord Talent notification. Your Scarlet Broodmother can be upgraded. Lord Talent notification. Your mysterious caravan has been upgraded. Lord Talent notification. The strength of the clergy of your life arc has increased. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. He had finally advanced to the intermediate grade Master God tier. To be honest, it's much simpler than I thought. In the beginning, he thought that it was very difficult to collect 1,000 units of chaos divine treasures. In the end, he did not expect that there would be a time mystic realm like the Chaos of Death and 2 channels to purchase chaos divine treasures from other high-level divine kingdom lord factions. After a series of operations, collecting chaos divine treasures suddenly became much simpler. I just don't know how easy it's going to be. Zhou Zhou took a deep breath and looked at the resource requirements to upgrade his Master God tier advanced grade territory. Building upgrade, 1,000 Gai units. Wood, 1,000 Gai units. Thin sand, 1,000 Gai units metal. 1,000 Gai units stone. 10,000 Master God tier advanced grade. Divine crystals, 100 capital units. Origin crystals, 5,000 chaos. Divine treasures, 50 ultimate. Void crystals, 50 advanced divine kingdoms. 100 Master God tier. Advanced grade God spirits, 100 million heroes. After Zhou Zhou finished reading, his gaze stopped on the number of 5,000 chaos divine treasures. After a long while, he nodded slightly. 1,000 units of chaos divine treasure. It's not much, but it's definitely not little. Today, I obtained more than 500 units of chaos divine treasures. In addition, we can also purchase chaos divine treasures from other high-level divine kingdom lords. In other words, as long as everything goes smoothly, I should be able to gather the requirements for the chaos divine treasure to upgrade my territory in 8 to 10 days. Zhou Zhou thought, if that was the case, collecting chaos divine treasures would not be difficult. He would spend more time collecting them at most. As for the other upgrade requirements, he only needed to take a glance to know that he had already satisfied all of them. However, he still took another look at the 50 units of ultimate void crystals and the upgrade requirement of 100 million heroes. The ultimate void. Crystal was a treasure born naturally from the ultimate void environment. Apart from obtaining it in the ultimate void battlefield, he could also obtain it in the ultimate void by leaving the supreme great cosmos. Even though it was more difficult, most of them relied on luck. However, if he could spend a lot of manpower and financial time to collect it, there would definitely be brave men under the heavy reward. It was not difficult to obtain the ultimate void crystal. What Zhou Zhou was more concerned about was the requirements of the 100 million racial heroes. The birth of heroes depended on luck. Even if it was a high-level race faction, the probability of producing heroes might not be much higher than a low-level race faction. And this place actually requires 100 million heroes. He looked extremely terrifying even without the restrictions of being a hero of his race. 100 million heroes. Oh my god, I can only easily meet this leveling requirement by using a large number of hero inheritance manuals to create heroes. Other high-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions don't have as many hero inheritance manuals as I do. I'm afraid they can only gather so many heroes by starting a war with other factions and forcefully plundering the racial heroes of other races, right? Zhou Zhou sighed. The advancement of this Master God tier kingdom was really difficult. Then, he stopped thinking about it. If it's hard, so be it. Anyway, it's not hard for me. Then, he silently chanted to upgrade the intermediate grade Master God tier kingdom. The next second, a text notification appeared. Prompt. You have met all the requirements to advance to an intermediate Master God tier kingdom. Do you want to advance the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom to an intermediate Master God tier kingdom? Promotion, Zhou Zhou said. Prompt. You have one chance to change the location of God Capital. Do you want to change or not change? Not change. Prompt. Your choice has been confirmed. Prompt. Your Lord's territory. Beginner grade Master. God Kingdom. Blazing Sun. Divine Kingdom is currently being upgraded. Prompt. Advancement successful. Congratulations, your beginner grade. Lord Territory of Blazing. Sun Divine Kingdom has officially been promoted to intermediate grade Lord Territory. Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. Prompt. You can show the level of your Divine Kingdom territory on any channel. The next second, the announcement of the Myriad Class. Races resounded in Zhou Zhou and the Myriad Races' ears. Announcement of the 10,000 races. Congratulations to the Prideful Sun Kingdom, Prideful Sun Lord, for successfully upgrading his kingdom to the first primary Lord God Kingdom Lord territory of the 10,000 races. Rewards, 10,000. Races Mythology, Treasure Box, +1, Primary Lord God Kingdom Treasure Box, +1, Legend Degree, +1, Million, Myth Degree, +100, 10,000. 10,000 races. Announcement, congratulations to the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, God Lord Blazing Sun. 10,000. Races announcement, congratulations to the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, God Lord Blazing Sun. A smile appeared on Zhou Zhou's face. Intermediate grade. Master God tier kingdom. Success. On the other hand, the myriad races in the heavens were shocked. How long had it been? The common people's regal had actually upgraded his Lord territory from a beginner grade Master God tier kingdom to an intermediate grade Master God tier kingdom? Why did they hear that those high-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions had only just begun to collect Chaos Divine treasures? Not to mention the intermediate grade Master God tier Lord territory. They had not even reached the beginner grade Master God tier Lord territory. Oh my god. Is this the common people's regal who has created countless miracles, as expected of the fourth successor, personally chosen by the Supreme Will? Every time they attacked, they would be so shocked that they did not know what to say. In the Lore Channel and the War Channel, this matter was soon discussed intensely. After watching for a while, Zhou Zhou chuckled and focused his attention on his reward. First was the mythical tier treasure chest. He opened it and saw a windmill emitting 4 colors of light in the mythical tier treasure chest. Windmill? Zhou Zhou looked over in surprise. Race Divine Artifact. Name, 4 symbols. Divine Wheel. Equipment grade. Top-notch racial divine artifact. Temporarily unbound. Race Divine Artifact Ability 1. Power of the 4 symbols. Universal Race Divine Artifacts. The first universal. Race Divine Artifact to be born since the creation of the 4 symbols boundless universe. It possesses the origin power of the 4 symbols boundless universe. Creatures who possess the 4 symbols divine wheel have their subjects and races citizens. Their talent in the laws of wind, lightning, and darkness has increased. Moreover, they can be immune to 20% of the damage of the 4 symbols attributes. The strength of the attacks released by the 4 symbols attributes has increased by 50%. Race Divine Artifact. Ability 2. 4 symbols. Divine Destruction. Technique. The 4 symbols. Divine Wheel absorbs the origin power of the 4 symbols, laws of wind, thunder, light, and darkness, and launches an attack that can kill a quasi-supreme will. After using it, all the effects of the 4 symbols Divine Wheel will temporarily be ineffective for a year. introduction to the race. Divine artifact, a universal race. Divine artifact that was personally nurtured by the four symbols. Boundless. Universe combined with the laws of wind, thunder, light, and darkness. Later it was obtained by the four symbols supreme god. After the four symbols supreme god died in the land of dusk, this four symbols divine wheel was also collected by the supreme will and prepared to be left for its future master. Symbols divine wheel, another immunity type divine artifact. Moreover, the effect of this divine artifact is not inferior to the 5 elements star I obtained last time. Furthermore, this four symbols divine wheel actually has the ability to actively attack. It's just that after the attack, the effect of the four symbols divine wheel will lose effect for a year. The gains don't make up for the losses. Forget it, there's no need. It's not like I don't have the combat strength of the quasi-supreme will realm. I don't need the four symbols divine wheel to make up for it. Zhou Zhou was still very satisfied when he saw the effects of this race divine artifact. Zhou Zhou put away the four symbols divine wheel and opened the intermediate grade Master God tier country treasure chest. Then he discovered that there was a 7-colored drop of water inside. It was the source of will. There's actually a drop of willpower in the intermediate grade Master God tier country treasure chest. It's a good deal. Zhou Zhou smiled until his eyes narrowed. A treasure like the source of will had allowed him to advance from the early stage of the will divine transformation realm to the middle stage of the will divine transformation realm. This kind of treasure, that could improve the Supreme God's will, had actually appeared in the intermediate Master God tier treasure chest. This was far beyond his expectations. Who should I give this drop of willpower to? Zhou Zhou pondered and said, this drop of willpower source wasn't of much use to him. He could sense that in another 2 to 3 days, he would be able to advance from intermediate stage will divine transformation realm to advanced stage will divine transformation realm. He didn't need this willpower source at all. Moreover, it was uncertain if this will source could help him advance to advanced stage will divine transformation realm. He had a premonition that this thing might not be possible. Therefore, it was better to give it to his subordinates, like how he had been giving Baiyun and Nazario. He thought for a moment, then shook his head and threw it directly into the military merit exchange system. Forget it. I don't have to think about it anymore. Whoever gets it, gets it. This is the fairest way. Then he opened the information panel of the Divine Kingdom and checked the requirements to advance to an advanced grade Master God tier kingdom. God Lord, Blazing Sun. God Lord, Divine Kingdom level, intermediate grade, Master God. Tier Kingdom. Divine Kingdom flag, all stars. Cover the Sun. Divine Kingdom Army, Blazing Sun Army, Master God tier elementary grade, Monster Army, Master God tier elementary grade, Dragon God Army, Master God tier elementary grade, 10,000 races, Army, Master God tier elementary grade, Heavenly Map Army, Master God tier elementary grade, Homeland Defense Army, True God tier advanced grade. Requirements for promotion to an advanced grade Master God tier level kingdom, 10,000. God Lord upper level divine crystals, conquer 1,000 high-level kingdoms under the command of the Scarlet Lord, 0-100. Conquer 50 high-level kingdoms, not under the command of the Scarlet Lord, to 0 or 50. Conquer 3 primary Lord God Kingdom Lord territories under the command of the Scarlet Lord, 0-3. Conquer a primary God Lord Kingdom Lord territory not under the command of the Scarlet Lord, 0-1. Conquer any $500 high-level kingdom-level Lord forces and possess its true God tier advanced grade kingdom order, 0-500. 5 billion independent regional territories, possess 1 million gods of the same race, possess 50 racial artifacts of the same race, 4550, possess 1,000 Master God tier offerings of the same race, 1,000. The Lord's own strength level reaches the Master God tier advanced Grottle. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows slightly after reading this. Among the requirements for this upgrade, he actually didn't meet many of them. Among them, what he cared about the most was the need to conquer the territory of a beginner grade master God tier lord. I can't believe you're starting to need to conquer the Lord's territory in the Master God tier kingdom. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. Were there any other forces that could establish a beginner grade master God tier lord territory apart from him? He suddenly remembered something the Bodhi Supreme had told him in the past. Letting more Lord factions establish Master God tier Lord factions was not only beneficial to the Supreme Will, but also to he himself. So here's what's good for me, Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. He thought about it and stopped thinking about it. Just gathering 5,000 units of chaos divine treasures to upgrade his territory was enough for him to prepare for a period of time after all. During this period of time, the other high-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions might be able to gather chaos divine treasures to upgrade their territories? No. Apart from relying on those high-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions, I can also personally support the factions and let they advance to the territory of a beginner grade master god tier kingdom lord. Then if I subdue they, wouldn't I be able to satisfy the requirement of conquering the territory of a beginner grade master god tier lord that is not under the command of the Crimson Overlord, 01? Zhou Zhou suddenly thought of this. As for who to support, that was naturally the Star Alliance under him. His talent was the most worthy of support. 0. Zhou Zhou suddenly said, he was calling the intelligent life form of the eternal space carrier, not the Machina Master God. Your Majesty, 0 is here. 0 immediately replied, who is the Lord with the highest level in the Star Alliance under this Emperor? What level has this person reached? Zhou Zhou asked. Reporting to your Majesty, the highest level in your territory is the spiritual medicine god Lord Linger. She has already reached the level of a beginner grade Divine Kingdom Lord's territory. In addition, the territories of Green Phoenix, God Lord, Heavenly Commerce God Lord, and Heavenly Agriculture God Lord have also reached the level of high-level Empire Lords. The highest Linger is only a beginner grade Divine Kingdom Lord? Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. That's a little low. As for Linger, he was not surprised. Linger was his most trusted lord after all. In the process of his development, he had also supported Linger many times with some resources. In addition, she was the largest supplier of medicinal herbs under Zhou Zhou. Just the supply of medicinal herbs was enough for her to make a lot of money. Under such circumstances, it was very normal for her to stand out among the lords of the Star Alliance. If she couldn't even become the first lord of the Star Alliance with all these, then Zhou Zhou wouldn't blame her. The other party was just a child after all. Zhou Zhou had never expected her to rise up and even help him. From the looks of it, even though Linger was young, she had never relaxed her pace of improvement. While Zhou Zhou was gratified, he also felt sorry for the other party. He thought for a moment and said, send someone to deliver 50 units of Chaos Divine Treasures to Linger and let her upgrade her territory to an intermediate grade Divine Kingdom territory first. In the future, try your best to help Linger complete all the requirements to advance to the territory. It's best if you can do it within 3 days. Within 10 days, I want to see Linger become the second Lord faction in the Myriad Worlds to advance to the beginner Grade Master God Tier Kingdom. He only needed 50 units of Chaos Divine Treasures to advance to an intermediate grade Divine Kingdom territory. If it was upgraded to an advanced Divine Kingdom, it would require 200 Chaos Divine Treasures. Advancing to the beginner grade, Master God Tier Lord territory required 500 units of Chaos Divine Treasures. In order to advance to the Master God Tier advanced grade as soon as possible, he had put in a lot of effort. There were a total of 750 units of Chaos Divine Treasures. Even he would need some time to accumulate them. Thankfully, he was nurturing his own people, so he felt more comfortable. Even though it would be easier to choose one of the high-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions to nurture, Zhou Zhou still liked to nurture trusted aides, not outsiders, even if it costs more. Yes, Your Grace, Zero said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded. Then he went to deliver resources to Linger, and Zhou Zhou started thinking again, since he needed to conquer a beginner grade Master God Tier territory. This time, he would probably have to conquer more beginner grade Master God Tier territory next time. He had to make preparations beforehand. In addition, conquering the territory of a beginner grade Master God Tier Lord that was not under the command of the Crimson Overlord was simple. I can train him myself. What about conquering the territory of the 3 beginner grade Master God Tier Lords under the Crimson Overlord? At this thought, Zhou Zhou could not help but frown. He thought for a moment and took out the omnipotent Bodhi Supreme. Bodhi Supreme, how can I find the territories of the 3 beginner grade Master God Tier Lords under the Crimson Overlord? Zhou asked directly. An answer, an ordinary question. Okay. To the Crimson Great Cosmos. Bodhi Supreme said lazily, in the Supreme Great Cosmos, don't even think about finding a Scarlet Kingdom of this level. Only in the base, camp of a Scarlet God Spirit, like the Crimson Great Cosmos, can you find the territory of a beginner grade Master God Tier Lord. However, the Crimson Great Cosmos is very dangerous, especially for an outsider like you. It won't be easy to survive there. You need to be prepared. Zhou Zhou nodded. This answer was also within his expectations. The Crimson Great Cosmos? He began to think. In his various bloodline inheritances, there were records of how to enter the Crimson Great Cosmos. Furthermore, there was more than one method. Therefore, there was no need to ask Bodhi Supreme how to enter the Crimson Great Cosmos. The key was how to openly conquer the Lord's territories of the 3 beginner Grade Master God tier countries. He thought about it and realized that he did not have a good idea for the time being. The Crimson Great Cosmos was very dangerous even for scarlet creatures. The law of the jungle there was even more bloody than the Lord contest in the Supreme Great Cosmos. If he wanted to go there to fulfill the advancement requirements, there were too many things to consider. Let's not think about it for now. There's always a way out. Zhou Zhou was not in a hurry. Then he came to the Gate of Summoning and spent 2,000 Guy units of basic materials and 5,000 Master God tier intermediate grade divine crystals to upgrade the Gate of Summoning to Master God tier intermediate grade A. Text notification appeared. Congratulations, your Gate of Summoning has been successfully upgraded to Master God tier intermediate grade building. You can summon 500 million subjects every day. You will summon 50,000 professionals every day. Prompt: under the influence of the unique title of the race's Glory of the Pioneer 3rd, the number of subjects you can summon every day has reached 7,617,500. You will summon 50,014 professionals every day. Choo-Choo nodded in satisfaction after reading it. A Master God tier intermediate grade Gate of Summoning had 585,965 basic subjects. After being buffed by the Glory of the Pioneer 3rd, the number of players increased by 13 times, becoming 7,617,500. Furthermore, there were 14 Master God tier intermediate grade God spirits among them. A Master God tier was nothing. Most importantly, 99% of these 7.6 billion God spirits would be epic tier, advanced grade, extraordinary tier life forms. The remaining 1%, which was more than 76 million people, were even legendary tier, advanced grade life forms. They were only a step away from advancing to the God spirit level. If other lords heard this, they would probably drool with envy. Then, he took a look at the requirements to upgrade the Gate of Summoning. Construction upgrade: $1,000 Gay. Units wood, 1,000 time altered Guy units sand, 1,000 Guy units metal, 1,000 Guy units stone, 10,000 Master God tier advanced grade, divine crystals, territory level upgraded to Master God tier advanced grade. Zhou retracted his gaze and spent 20 Guy units of basic materials, 10,000 Master God tier intermediate divine crystals, and 50 billion high grade elemental gems to upgrade the original Dragon Abyss to the Master God tier intermediate grade. Building name: Original Dragon Abyss. Construction level: Master God tier intermediate grade. Construction effect: every day you can summon 60 billion extraordinary tier pure-blooded dragons from the original Dragon Abyss, 6 billion epic tier pure-blooded dragons, 6 billion legendary tier pure-blooded dragons, 60,000 true God tier advanced grade dragon gods to become subjects under the Lord. There is a 60% chance of summoning 1 legendary dragon and a 10% chance of summoning 2 legendary dragons. Note: when all legendary dragons are summoned, the legendary dragons that can no longer be summoned will be replaced by 1,000 true God tier advanced grade dragon gods. Construction upgrade: wood 5 Guy units, sand 5 Guy units, metal 5 Guy units, stone 5 Guy units, 10,000. Master God tier intermediate grade. Divine crystals: 50 billion advanced elemental gemstones. Territory has been upgraded to intermediate grade. Master God tier country level Lord faction. It has 100 Master God tier dragon tribesmen. Chou-Choo nodded in satisfaction after seeing the effects of the buildings in the original Dragon Abyss. The original Dragon Abyss that had advanced to the Master God tier intermediate grade could be said to have improved greatly. Just the pure-blooded. Epic tier and elementary grade dragons alone could summon 60 billion. However, with the supreme level heavenly summoning, this effect could basically be ignored. The weakest pure-blooded dragon summoned by him was an epic tier advanced grade pure-blooded dragon after all. The biggest improvement this time was the number of dragon gods he summoned. The number of ordinary dragon gods they could summon alone had reached 6.66 trillion. The number of true god tiers summoned had reached 6.66 million. The probability of summoning 2 legendary dragons had doubled. The improvement was not bad. However, he had a feeling that he was about to summon all the dragon gods in the original Dragon Abyss. I wonder what's the use of the original Dragon Abyss after there are no more dragons in it. The This thought appeared in Zhou Zhou's mind, but he stopped thinking about it. Then he returned to the kingdom of God and sent someone to call Mu Gu, Zheng Fugi, and Carol Moily over. A moment later, the three of them arrived in front of Zhou Zhou. "Greetings, Your Majesty," the three of them said respectfully. "As usual, tell me about your improvements." Zhou Zhou smiled and said, Mu Gu was the first to step forward. "Your Majesty, the Scarlet Broodmother I'm currently in has been upgraded from Master God Tier Elementary Grade to Master God Tier Intermediate Grade. The number of Mist Mothers evolved from the Master God Tier Intermediate Grade. Scarlet Broodmother has increased from 50 million to 100 million. Each Mist Mother's Mist Mother world can now nurture 200 billion fog monsters. 100 million Mist Mothers can nurture a total of 2,000 capital units fog monsters. In addition, the quality and efficiency of cultivating high-quality Scarlet Descendants has also improved. Currently, I can already nurture 50 Master God Tier Intermediate Grade God Spirits in a day. As for True God Tiers and Ordinary God Spirits, it's the same as before. I can nurture them indefinitely as long as the Scarlet Fog doesn't disappear," Mu Gu said calmly. When Zhou Zhou heard this, a smile appeared on his face. This was a total of 2,000 capital units fog monsters. In other words, if he used all these Mist Mothers to nurture his soldier type, with the enhancement of Lord talents and titles like Heavenly Fate Di Huang, he would be able to obtain 2,000 capital units Supreme God Realm Soldier recruitment books, $2,000. Capital units Supreme God Realm Soldier class, Change Certificate, 2,000 capital units Supreme Holy Mage God recruitment books, and 2,000 capital units Supreme Holy Mage God class Change Certificate. With that in mind, he could have an additional 8,000 capital units recruits in a day. This was an army of 8,000 capital units, nearly one Guy unit. Moreover, under the influence of the Supreme Unique Lord Talent, Heavenly Summoning, 7,120. Capital unit soldiers would become Epic Tier Advanced Grade soldiers. The remaining 80 capital unit soldiers would be Legendary Tier Advanced Grade soldiers. It could also be said to be a reserve army for God Spirits. If all the 80 capital units troops were to become God Spirits, it's like Zhou Zhou did not dare to imagine such a scene. "It seems that it won't be long before I shock the God Spirits of the myriad worlds," Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. Then he laughed, wondering how the myriad worlds would react. "Would be very interesting, right?" Then he directly said to Mu Gu, "Of the 100 million Mist Mothers, 50 million are used to nurture the Chaos Ruler, and the other 50 million are used to nurture the Primordial Holy Canon." "Yes, Your Grace." Mu Gu nodded respectfully. Then he retreated. Zheng Fugi stepped forward, seeing this. "Reporting to Your Majesty, the number of Mysterious Merchant has increased from 1 trillion to 5 trillion after our territory. Advanced to the Intermediate Grade Master God Tier grade. The number of carriages transporting goods has also increased to 5 trillion. Among these 5 trillion Mysterious Merchant were a total of 5 million Supremacy Gods, 4,999,995 million True God Tiers, and 4 trillion 500 billion Ordinary God Spirits. Our treasure hunting ability has increased again in probability. In the future, when we go out to do business, we should be able to bring back at least 5 million God Tier treasures each time. In addition, as one of the core branches of the Mysterious Merchant Chamber of Commerce, our status has increased again. The salary we receive every day has already increased from 10,000 Mysterious Merchant Chamber of Commerce points to 50,000 Mysterious Merchant Chamber of Commerce points," he said respectfully. Zhou Zhou smiled and nodded. However, he was no longer as emotional as before when he heard these God Spirit numbers. With the heavenly summoning, he was confident that he would soon surpass the number of gods of the Mysterious Merchant in terms of the number of Ordinary God Spirits. However, it was still a little difficult to surpass the Mysterious Merchant in terms of True God Tier and Master God Tier. He didn't think too much about it and looked at Carol Moily. Seeing this, Zheng Fugi retreated. Carol Moily stood up and said respectfully, "Reporting to Your Majesty. Your Majesty, after the territory was upgraded to the Intermediate Master God Tier grade, our life arc already has 5 clergymen from the capital units, 5 priests from the capital units, 5 nuns from the capital units, and 500 life paladins from the capital units. Well, these clergymen are enough to complete the War Healing mission and the War Resurrection mission with 10 Guy unit level troops. Also, currently, there are already 2 billion high-level Divine Duty members at the Life Arc God Spirit level. Every one of them have mastered the Great and Small Resurrection spell. They can resurrect the deities of our country alone. As for my strength, I'm still Master God Tier Advanced Grade. I haven't improved yet." Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. A healing ability at the level of the 10 Guy units, billion high-level clergymen who had mastered resurrection spells. These were enough to satisfy his long-term war treatment needs and war revival needs. From the looks of it, it was not so urgent to recruit extraordinary tier life forms with revival and healing abilities from the heavenly post. Then, he chatted with Mugu and they for a while more about their future development before allowing them to return. As for Zhou Zhou, he closed his eyes and sensed the lower limit of the Blazing Sun God race's potential. Then, he opened his eyes and a smile appeared on his face. Low-tier deity level advanced grade. After 1,112 new humans were born, which was the new Master God tier of the Blazing Sun God race, the lower limit of the Blazing Sun God race's potential had shockingly increased from the low-tier deity level intermediate grade to the low-tier deity level advanced grade. In just a day, the lower limit of the potential of them, the Blazing Sun God race, had increased again. This was much faster than Zhou Zhou had expected. Perhaps he could already look forward to the scene of humanity's potential rising to the Master God tier level. Even though that might take a long time and many new Master Gods of the human race to do, then Zhou Zhou sensed how many new Master Gods the Blazing Sun God race needed to raise their potential from the lower limit of low-tier deity level, advanced grade, to the lower limit of mid-tier deity level elementary grade. The answer was 2,000 of them. Zhou. Zhu nodded slightly after knowing this. It's a good request. According to my efficiency yesterday, 2 days should be enough to gather enough newly advanced Master God tier to raise the lower limit of the Blazing Sun God race's potential to the mid-tier deity level elementary grade, he thought. And then he stopped thinking and returned to the reincarnation sacred palace to continue cultivating, comprehending the laws, increasing one's realm, cultivating the supreme sacred body, creating a new supreme, the only law, and occasionally coming out to preside over important actions like upgrading one's territory. His main body had a lot of things to do. It was not like what the other clones had said. He stayed in the reincarnation sacred palace every day and did nothing. At the same time, at the ultimate void battlefield, Zhou Fight, Lord Iranor of 10,000 Evils They army, had already arrived in front of a void mystic realm in the territory of the Lotus Flame battlefield. They glanced at the Blood Supreme God and the army behind him. Blood Supreme God Becky also saw their gazes and responded with an arrogant and unrestrained smile. The Lord of 10,000 Evils revealed an angry and cold expression. This guy is too much. We clearly said that this was our own operation and asked him not to follow us, but he still followed us. What exactly is he doing? Is he going to cause trouble? After today, I must report this matter to the Supreme Will and get him to inform the Crimson Overlord to warn this Becky. He said angrily. Brother Demon Lord, Zhou Fight said softly, I advise you not to do this. I think the Supreme Will must want to see us work hard on our own, not tell my Lord to stand up for us after he has been bullied by the other side. It's not just us who will be embarrassed like that. It's also the face of the Supreme Will. The Lord of 10,000 Evils was shocked when he heard that. Only then did he react and hurriedly rejoice. Fortunately, Brother Common People's regal reminded me. Otherwise, I would probably lose face in front of the Supreme. Will, Zhou Fight shook his head, not minding. So what do we do next? The Lord of 10,000 Evils was actually not afraid of Becky, but Becky's identity as the successor of the Crimson Overlord was very troublesome. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move, Zhou Fight said, the Lord of 10,000. Evils nodded. After that, the two deities did not say anything else and entered the secret realm. Becky, who was behind them, laughed arrogantly when he saw this. Then he led the Blood God army behind her and swaggered into the Void Mystic Realm. This Void Mystic Realm was called the White Dawn Void Mystic Realm. There was a race called the White Dawn God race living inside. The White Dawn Gods lived on an incomparably huge planet. There were more than 50 billion ordinary God spirits, more than 500 million true God tiers, about 100,000 Master God tiers, and more than 20 Supreme Gods. Zhou Fight clicked his tongue in wonder, as expected. Of the Void Mystic Realm in a Grade 3 Supreme God Realm war territory, its overall strength was much stronger than the first Void Mystic Realm they had encountered, the Sky Void Mystic Realm. Of course, they were still inferior to them. At the same time, after Becky entered the White Dawn Void Mystic Realm, he immediately felt the unbelievably abundant promotion energy in the Void Mystic Realm. He revealed a look of shock before quickly becoming intoxicated. The subordinates behind him had similar expressions. After a while, they came back to their senses. The moment Becky came back to his senses, his gaze on this Void Mystic Realm was filled with greed. There's actually so much promotion energy in this Void Mystic Realm. Oh, no wonder the Supreme Will would use him as a training reward for the Lord of 10,000 Evils. With this void mystic realm, even if there's only one, it can greatly accelerate the development of the forces under the Lord of 10,000 Evils. It's laughable that the Lord of 10,000 Evils was actually powerless to take down this void mystic realm, causing these treasure lands to be abandoned until now. Ha 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 ha. This void mystic realm is mine since Lord of 10,000 Evils can't get it, but he looked at the vast number of god spirits on White Dawn with some fear. The factions developed by these natives rely on their promotion. Energy here are really a little troublesome for me. He looked at the Lord of 10,000 Evils and Zhou Zhou again with a smile on his face. Fortunately, I have them as my vanguard. Let them wear down the strength of these natives first. When I've worn it down enough, it'll be time for me to get the results of the war. At the thought of this, the smile on Becky's lips became even more obvious. Right at that moment, the members of the White Dawn God race also discovered them, who had entered the void mystic realm. They immediately activated various arrays and used various races' divine artifacts to augment their god spirit army. At the same time, a large number of god spirits began to form an array, wanting to resist Zhou Fight's attack. Those who surrender wouldn't be killed. At this moment, Zhou Fight's calm voice resounded throughout the White Dawn void. Mystic Realm. The God Lord of the White Dawn. God Race, White Dawn. God Lord flew out of the God Spirit army and looked at Zhou Fight, the Lord of 10,000 Evils and the Blood Supreme God. Arrogance. You want our White Dawn God Race. To surrender? What a coincidence. I also want you to die in our territory and become nourishment for our White Dawn God Race. Zhou Fight raised his eyebrows. Could this guy have mastered some kind of secret war technique that used dead god spirits as a nourishment to assist in his advancement? He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He directly ordered Bai Yun to lead the army to attack the other party. Kill! Bai Yun, who had just advanced to a grade 1 supreme god, was at her most high-spirited and eager for an opponent. Hearing this, she immediately led the army to attack the White Dawn army. Bai Yun also drew her bow as she led the offensive. A wisp of imperceptible divine power flew out of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom army behind her, the 1,000 Evil army, and even every god spirit in the Blood God army. This divine power gathered on Bai Yun's grade 1 supreme god divine artifact, the Blood God killing bow, and quickly formed an arrow that emitted a dazzling light. It was the Lord Law skill, Myriad God, slaughtering holy arrow that Bai Yun had comprehended after advancing to a grade 1 supreme god. As soon as this colorful arrow appeared, it attracted the gazes of all the god spirits present. Even the top supreme gods could not help but look over. This arrow has the power of a top grade 4 supreme god. Even though that arrow-wielding lifeform only has the strength of a newly promoted grade 1 supreme god, it can be seen from this arrow that the other party's combat strength is probably not inferior to a top grade 4 supreme god. Oh, what a monstrous supreme god. A grade 4. Supreme God of the White Dawn Divine Clan said in a low voice. He had extremely good eyesight and could tell at a glance that Bai Yun was a newly promoted Supreme God. I'll defend against him, another grade 4. Supreme God shouted. Then he immediately flew to the front and used the grade 3 Supreme God Realm Divine Artifact Shield in his hand to create a huge silver shield that covered the sky in the ultimate void the next second. Boom! The arrow and shield quickly collided. After the nomological fog dissipated after the explosion, they saw that Bai Yun's myriad godslaughter sacred arrow had already disappeared, but the other party's huge silver shield also looked dilapidated, and quickly disappeared into the air. When this grade 4 supreme god of the White Dawn god race saw this scene, his eyes widened. That fellow, who had clearly just advanced to a grade 1 supreme god, actually broke his strongest. Defensive law skill with a single arrow? Was this a newly promoted grade 1 supreme god? At the same time, Bai Yun, who did not know what the other party was thinking, could not help but frown when she saw that her arrow did not do anything. Then she shot 3 more myriad god-slaughtering holy arrows. Block it. The White Dawn God Lord shouted. The next second, 2 more grade 3 Supreme God realms and a grade 4. Supreme God flew out from behind the White Dawn God Lord, each defending a myriad god slaughtering holy arrow. The grade 4 Supreme God. Among them blocked this myriad god slaughtering holy arrow by himself. However, the 2 grade 3 Supreme God realms were in trouble. They did not expect that Bai Yun's arrow would really have the power of a grade 4 Supreme God law skill. Therefore, even if they tried their best to defend, they still could not block the arrow and were severely injured by it. The White Dawn God Lord's expression darkened, On the other hand, Bai Yun felt much better. Kill. Bai Yun actually gave up on long-range shooting. Instead, she began to use the bowstring as a knife and the divine sword as a spear. She led the army and rushed into the God Spirit army of the White Dawn God Clan and began to fight the God Spirit army of the White Dawn God Clan in close combat. She was like a super general with peerless saber techniques and peerless spearmanship. She looked down on the enemy's army of God Spirits and was unstoppable. When the Blazing Sun, Divine Kingdom's God Spirit army, and the Thousand Evil Armies God Spirit army behind him saw that their charging general was actually so ferocious, their already high morale immediately surged again. They also quickly rushed into the White Dawn God Spirits army and killed wantonly. The God Spirits of the White Dawn God Clan fought timidly facing the wolf-like army of God Spirits. In the end, they could not help but curse. Were these God Spirits all lunatics? Why were they so suicidal when they fought? Were they all exchanging injuries or even lives? Naturally, they did not know. They did have a suicidal temperament when they fought with the confidence of their almost infinite resurrection. On the other side, the supreme gods of the White Dawn gods had been paying attention to this top-notch God Spirit who was a grade 1 supreme god and had the combat power of a grade 4 supreme god. After seeing that he had such combat power even after close combat, they immediately could not sit still. I can't let him continue like this. Soon, a grade 4 supreme god and 3 grade 3 supreme god realms flew over and surrounded Bai Yun. However, even though Bai Yun was fighting 1 against 4, she was not at a disadvantage at all. She actually fought back and forth with the 4 supreme gods. When Zhou Fight, who was far behind the battlefield, saw this scene, he raised his eyebrows slightly and was satisfied after being surprised initially. Looks like Bai Yun gained a lot after her promotion. The transformation of archery, saber arts, and spear arts is actually so natural. It already feels like one technique can be understood and all techniques can be understood. He smiled and muttered to himself. Bai Yun's performance surprised Zhou Fight. The Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's divine army naturally did not disappoint Zhou Fight. They were all top-notch god spirits with supreme soldier types. They didn't even take up 50% of the Divine Kingdom's soldier types. The White Dawn God Spirit Army, which didn't even have 10% of the supreme soldier types, naturally had a crushing attitude. The Thousand Evil Army's performance was slightly worse than the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's, but they could still suppress the other party. However, when General Zhou's gaze fell on the Blood God Army of the Blood Supreme God, he frowned slightly. The Scarlet Soldiers of the Blood God Army were mixed in with their own army. They did not charge forward to fight the enemy. Instead, they held their weapons and swayed around as though they were fighting with themselves. Some of the Blood God soldiers were even chatting and watching the show at the back of the army. This reminded Zhou Fight of the television dramas his main body had seen on Earth. In a large-scale battle scene, there would always be extras wandering around the edge of the fighting center, fighting with the air. Other extras hang around the edges of the camera, serving only as the backdrop. There was only one word to describe it: fuck. Zhou Fight smiled coldly and did not say anything else. However, the Lord of 10,000 Evils, who had also discovered this scene, was so angry that his face turned red. After he calmed down, he remained silent for a while. Then he suddenly said to Zhou Fight, "Brother Common People's Regal, wait for me to prepare to fight Becky later." Zhou Fight was stunned. He looked at him and asked, "How do we fight?" "Of course, I'm going all out." The Lord of 10,000 Evils grinned and said fiercely, "Damn it, I won't be Lord of 10,000 Evils if I don't vent this disgusting anger today. Don't worry. I won't kill he, but I'll make he lose all face. It's best if I severely injure he before letting he go back and lie down for a few hundred years before coming out." Zhou Fight could not help but laugh. Sometimes this demon lord was quite good with his temper. "Count me in," he said. "Okay." The Lord of 10,000 Evils revealed a happy expression. It's always easier to be an accomplice. Right at that moment, Zhou Fight suddenly saw a blood god soldier secretly extracting the spoils of war from the corpses of the White Dawn gods and god spirits. He even openly put them into his world rings. He looked over and realized that there were many blood god soldiers who had done this. Zhou Fight's expression turned even colder. Before the war ended, the soldiers on the battlefield began to clean up the battlefield and collect their loots. This was a huge taboo on the battlefield. Furthermore, these blood god soldiers were not their soldiers, which was even more infuriating. Even though Zhou Fight was angry, he quickly thought of a solution. He even smiled. He formed a seal with his hands and said softly, "All the land in the world belongs to the king." The next second, an invisible fluctuation spread in all directions with he as the center. It quickly covered the entire battlefield, forming a huge 9-colored nomological domain. It was Zhou Fight who had used his law skill, all the land in the world belongs to the king, to set up an absolute law domain around the battlefield. Within this absolute law domain, Zhou Fight could change the rules at will. He could even create strange rules that defied common sense, such as fire and water and wind in solid form. However, he didn't make any fancy changes. He had only created a very simple absolute law. That was, in his nomological domain, all the spoils of war that the enemy dropped would be treated as spoils of war that he had extracted. They would automatically appear in his first treasury. The spoils of war that they had extracted previously would also be returned to the first treasury of the Zhou Fight. After creating this rule, Zhou Fight did not care anymore. This rule quickly took effect. The first to discover the changes in the rules were naturally the Blood God Army soldiers who secretly extracted the loots. They had been on the battlefield to begin with. They had secretly extracted the spoils of war from the White Dawn's corpse and wanted to take it for themselves. These dead White Dawn gods were not killed by them personally. Instead, they were killed by the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's God Spirit soldiers and the Thousand Evil Army's God Spirit soldiers. However, they adhered to the rules of the battlefield. Before the war ended, no one touched the corpses, let alone retrieve the loots. Instead, all of them were fighting the enemy with all their might, striving to end the war as soon as possible. However, the subordinates of the Blood Supreme God did not abide by this rule at all. Some secretly extracted the loots, while some boldly extracted the spoils of war that they had just killed in front of the other soldiers. The Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's God Spirit soldiers and the Thousand Evil Army's God Spirit soldiers shouted at them. These guys did not care at all. They even scolded they for being troublesome and asked they to kill the enemy obediently. When they heard this, they was naturally very angry, but they did not say anything. They believed that His Majesty would seek justice for them. Then, very quickly, the Blood God soldiers realized that after they extracted the God Spirit's corpse, not a single loot's dropped. The first was like this, the second was like this, and the third was like this. Soon, the Blood God soldiers on the entire battlefield realized that they could no longer extract the spoils of war from the God Spirit's corpse. The corpses of the God Spirits had clearly disappeared, but they did not drop anything. This made they very surprised. Am I that unlucky today? Some Blood God soldiers could not help but doubt themselves. It's not just you. I didn't get any loots either. Me too. Same here. Same here. Damn it! We've been tampered with. Soon, some Blood God soldiers finally realized what was going on. This matter quickly reached Becky's ears. What? You can't retrieve loots from the corpses of dead God spirits? Becky was very surprised when he first heard the news. He immediately observed the situation of the corpses. Then he quickly discovered something and began the situation of the entire battlefield. Then his expression immediately darkened. He looked at Zhou Fight and saw him smiling at him. He even greeted him. We're in this guy's realm of laws. He gritted his teeth, very surprised. He was a top-notch Scarlet Supreme God with the strength of the quasi-supreme will realm. But even so, he only discovered this matter after being reminded by his subordinates. It could be seen how terrifying this nomological domain was. And what made him the most afraid and jealous was that the guy who had such a nomological domain was actually a Grade 1 Supreme God who had just advanced. If a Grade 1 Supreme God could do this, what would happen when he grew up to become a Grade 4 Supreme God, a quasi-supreme willpower realm, or even a supreme willpower realm expert? If this fellow grows up, he will definitely become a great threat to our Lord, Becky thought to himself, and for the first time, he felt a strong killing intent towards Zhou Zhou. Previously, he had only wanted to discuss Zhou Fight and them and obtain some benefits, but now he had other thoughts. Your Majesty, what do we do now? Right at that moment, a Grade 4, Supreme God Blood. God beside him asked worriedly, with the absolute law domain of the common people's regal, how could they obtain the spoils of war from the God Spirit's corpses? Can you be a little more flexible, Becky? Glared at him. You can't obtain loots from a God Spirit's corpse. Isn't there still this White Dawn planet? You secretly give the order for the soldiers to sneak into White Dawn and plunder. Take anything good, don't leave. Anything good for the common people's regal and the lord of 10,000 evils? What are the spoils of war and the corpses of those god spirits? There's only quantity, but no quality. The truly valuable treasures in the void mystic realm are the treasures left behind by those supreme wills as rewards. Yes, your grace. The blood god's eyes lit up when he heard this. He immediately said excitedly and went to give the order. Soon, a small group of blood god soldiers secretly infiltrated White Dawn under the cover of the main army. They thought that they had done it quietly without anyone noticing. However, Zhou and Lord of 10,000 Evils had been watching these guys at all times. After seeing them sneak into White Dawn, they almost immediately guessed what they wanted to do. This was the biggest gain from intercepting. Them. We're fighting to the death in the front, and you're stealing from the back, right? The Lord of 10,000 Evils was instantly enraged. If not for the fact that he still had his rationality, he would have immediately given up on attacking the White Dawn gods in front of him and attacked the Blood Supreme God instead. The two sides were similar in strength to begin with. It was true that the Blood Supreme God had the strength of a quasi-supreme will, but he had many trump cards that the Supreme Will had rewarded him with. If they really fought freely, it was really uncertain who would win between him and the Blood Supreme God. Hold your horses. Ah, Brother Demon Lord, do you trust me? At this moment, Zhou also saw the abnormality of Lord of 10,000 Evils. He thought for a moment and suddenly asked, "Of course." The Lord of 10,000 Evils was stunned for a moment. He calmed down a little and nodded. The two of them were both Supreme Lord Reserve armies, but they were definitely good comrades who could trust their backs to each other, excluding their status as competitors. Apart from the fact that the two god spirits admired each other and were unwilling to harm each other, most importantly, they were always under the gaze of the Supreme Will as the Supreme Lord Reserve Army. They did not dare to play any tricks to harm each other in front of that person. In that case, just follow me later. I guarantee that we won't be at a disadvantage, Zhou said. Okay. The Lord of 10,000 Evils decided to believe in Zhou. The other party had already created too many miracles after all. Zhou nodded. Then he ignored the other party's actions of putting all the treasures on White Dawn into his pocket. More than 2 hours later, the God Spirit army of the White Dawn God race was no match for the armies under Zhou and Lord of 10,000. Evils after all, and were quickly wiped out. Zhou did not use the Son of Destiny or the Land of Earth, a minister of the king. He only let his army and the evil army join forces to destroy the other party and turn them into promotion energy for his soldiers. As for the Blood God army, they were still the same. They were slacking at the back of the battlefield while attracting attention and covering their companions as they plundered the treasures on White Dawn. Right at that moment, Becky, who was at the back of the battlefield, was overjoyed. Because he had received news from his subordinates, they had already plundered the entire White Dawn. Forget about treasures. They still wanted it, even if it was a mist core. Ha ha ha. Not bad, not bad. Did you find anything good? Becky immediately asked. We found 16 Supreme Divine Artifacts. In addition, there are more than 10,000 Supreme God quality treasures, most of which are divine herbs and minerals. The subordinate immediately reported. How many grade 4 Supreme God treasures are there? Are there treasures at the quasi-Supreme Will realm or even the Supreme Will realm? Void secret treasures are fine too, Becky hurriedly asked. He was not too interested in ordinary Supreme God treasures or even Supreme Divine Artifacts. As a quasi-Supreme Willpower realm expert, only quasi-Supreme Willpower realm treasures, Supreme Willpower realm treasures, and void treasures with special effects would interest him. There are 2 grade 4 Supreme Divine Artifacts, and there is nothing better. I didn't see any void treasures. His subordinate replied. Becky looked puzzled when he heard that. How come? Wasn't it said that the best treasures in the void mystic realm were the void treasures placed in the void mystic realm by the Supreme Will? Could the information he received be wrong? Right at that moment, he suddenly noticed that on the distant battlefield, Bai Yun had already joined forces with the other 6 Supreme Gods to eliminate the White Dawn God Lord, the patriarch of the White Dawn God clan, under her arrow. Even though he had been killed by an alliance, and Bai Yun was exhausted, it could not hide the fact that she had already defeated a grade 4 Supreme God. A grade 1 Supreme God can actually destroy a grade 4 Supreme God. This Supreme God of the human race can't be left alive in the future. This thought had just appeared in his mind. The entire sky void mystic realm shook slightly. Then 5 white balls of light descended from the chaotic and dark purple sky and landed in front of Zhou Fight. It was the reward for capturing the sky void mystic realm. Zhou Fight looked at the 5 balls of light. They were respectively the void treasure, white dawn jade body, void secret treasure, profound gold crystal, void secret treasure, cleansing technique glass realm, void secret treasure, time cicada. The white dawn jade body was a defensive treasure. When worn on the body, it could block a fatal attack from a grade 4 supreme god and below without dying. The profound gold crystal was a material that could be used to forge a quasi-supreme will divine artifact. It could also be said to be a semi-holy artifact, the supreme profound gold staff. The cleansing technique. Glass realm was a special treasure that could absorb the attacks of enemies from the outside world. It could also absorb or directly reflect back to the other party, causing the other party to be injured by his attacks. As for the last time cicada, it was a one-time use treasure. After using it, the user would temporarily seal their memories and enter an illusion. In the illusion, they would experience the life and death reincarnation of an ordinary life form 100 times. After 100 reincarnations, the user would wake up. At the same time, their soul power, mental power, and even willpower would increase greatly. All of them are good stuff. Zhou Fight nodded. He was very interested, especially in the time cicada. Just as he was about to put it away, he saw a blood-colored figure suddenly fly over from below, heading straight for the 5 void treasures in front of him. It was the Blood Supreme God, Becky. Brother Common People's Regal, everyone who wants to see these treasures will get a share. The Blood Supreme God laughed. Motherfucker. The Lord of 10,000 Evils was instantly enraged when he heard the other party's words before Zhou Fight could react. He directly ate a pill. Immediately after, his aura suddenly increased drastically. In the blink of an eye, he had a pressure comparable to a quasi-supreme willpower expert. He flew straight at Becky and kicked him. Becky didn't expect the Lord of 10,000 Evils, who had always kept a low profile in front of him, to have such a huge reaction. Therefore, he didn't react at all to his sudden attack and was directly kicked a light year away. The Lord of 10,000 Evils was still panting in anger when he saw this scene. His eyes were filled with anger as he looked at Becky. Who are you to call him? Brother Common People's Regal like me? You think you're worthy? Lord of 10,000 Evils, what do you mean? Becky asked with a dark expression. Didn't my kick wake you up? That's what it means. The Lord of 10,000 Evils snorted coldly. After this series of actions, he suddenly felt exalted and comfortable. I should have done so long ago. He thought to himself. Becky took a deep breath and ignored the Lord of 10,000 Evils, who had suddenly gone crazy and continued to look at Zhou Fight. The 5 treasures in front of Zhou Fight were more important to him. That was a total of 5. Void artifacts. He wanted everyone else other than White Dawn's jade body. Common People's Regal, we'll attack this White Dawn void mystic realm with you. Let's not talk about the fact that you won't let us share the loots on the battlefield. Are you going to monopolize these 5 void treasures? Don't you want to share it with the Lord of 10,000 Evils, even if not me? He has lost many god spirits for the sake of your war, Becky said. His intentions were extremely dangerous, even wanting to destroy the relationship between Zhou Fight and the Lord of 10,000 Evils. Buffed. Blood Supreme God, what nonsense are you spouting? Brother Common People's Regal and I have already discussed that all the loots will belong to the Brother Common People's Regal. What right do you have to say anything here? It's as if I have a good relationship with you. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. How can my friendship with the Brother Common People's Regal be destroyed by a few words from you? The Lord of 10,000 Evils was already displeased with Becky to begin with. He became even more displeased hearing this. He immediately did not care about anything else and directly cursed at the Blood Supreme God. The Blood Supreme God finally couldn't take it anymore. He also cursed at the Lord of 10,000 Evils. I'm fucking speaking up for you. Can't you understand? Why are you always undermining me? Are you the Common People's Regal's dog? Why are you always speaking up for him? What do you know? Besides, the Common People's Regal has snatched back so many battlefield territories for our supreme will. So what if I'm really a dog for him? Woof, woof, woof! Towards the end, Lord of 10,000 Evils barked at him 3 times, like a loyal dog protecting its master. Zhou Fight, Blood Supreme God. Becky was a little exasperated at this moment. Didn't expect the Lord of 10,000 Evils to have such a good relationship with the Common People's Regal. No, this could no longer be described as a good relationship, right? The two of them could practically be wearing the same pants. I can't use this guy's name to attack the common people's regal anymore. He looked at Zhou Fight and directly said, Common people's regal. It's a fact that I led my blood god army to attack this white dawn void mystic realm with you and win the war. No matter what. I'm qualified to take a few of the void treasures in front of you. How about this? I won't take too many. I'll only take 2 of the 5 void treasures in front of you. You take 2 of the remaining 3, and Lord of 10,000 Evils take 1. How about that? The blood supreme god said. He had a fair expression, as though it was very fair. Zhou Fight and the Lord of 10,000 Evils looked at each other and suddenly laughed. It was an angry laugh. This guy was really shameless. Becky. Zhou Fight lamented, I've defeated countless enemies, but among these countless enemies you can be said to be the most shameless. No wonder Lord Crimson Overlord arranged for you to be here. Don't tell me you're arranged to be here because you're shameless enough. Blood Supreme God's face darkened. Zhou Fight continued just as he was about to say something. I won't agree to your request. First of all, you didn't get our permission to bring your troops here. You're the successor of the Crimson Overlord. Otherwise, we would have dealt with you before we attacked the White Dawn Void Mystic Realm. That way, there wouldn't be any accidents during the war because of an unstable factor like you. Secondly, this is the performance of your soldiers on the battlefield. After saying that, Zhou Fight had an idea. Tens of billions of virtual cameras appeared behind Zhou Fight. Every camera accurately recorded the acting behavior of the Blood God army soldiers on the battlefield. Becky, don't tell me the Blood Gods under you are all actors. It's as if Lord of 10,000 Evils and I specially invited actors like you to increase our military strength. Becky remained silent. There's more. Zhou Fight waved his right hand gently, and a huge virtual screen appeared. In front of him. This screen was very huge, even with light years as its length and width. At this moment, on this huge virtual screen, the scene of Becky's Blood God army sneaking into White Dawn to burn, kill, and plunder was playing. From the moment they entered White Dawn until they plundered the entire planet, the entire video was recorded in detail. Becky. Zhou Fight looked at Becky and said calmly, Our soldiers fought to the death on the battlefield. It's fine if your soldiers did nothing, but they actually dared to sneak into the base of the White Dawn Gods during the war and plunder the spoils of war that originally belonged to us. I've already ordered my subordinates to record everything. I have my reasons even in front of the Crimson Overlord. What more in front of you? What else do you have to say? I only sent troops to infiltrate the rear of their battlefield to do these things because they had an empty defense. As for the things we obtained, I didn't intend to take them all for myself. Instead, I was prepared to split them with you and the Lord of 10,000 Evils, Becky said forcefully. Then take it out, Zhou Fight said calmly. Becky was unwilling, but the evidence was in Zhou Fight's hands. He had no choice but to show Zhou Fight and the Lord of 10,000 Evils some of the loots he had obtained from White Dawn. There should be far more treasures on the entire White Dawn planet, right? Zhou Fight took a look and said calmly, Those belong to us, and these belong to you and the Lord of 10,000 Evils. Becky grinned. Zhou Fight was not angry. Instead, he smiled faintly. Sigh, I finally waited for you to say this. He calmly pulled out the Zhuanyuan divine sword from his waist, pointed the tip of the sword at Becky, and said in an extremely satisfied tone, Becky was stunned. The Lord of 10,000 Evils was also stunned. Then they heard Zhou Fight say something that shocked them. Becky, today I will kill you, Zhou Fight said. The Lord of 10,000 Evils' expression changed slightly. This was because he knew that what the other party said was true. Becky was stunned for a moment when he heard that. Then he suddenly burst out laughing. You want to kill me? Do you know who I am? I am one of the 4 successors of the Crimson Overlord and a strong contender for the position of the Crimson Overlord in the future. Kill me? Even the Supreme Will wouldn't dare. To kill me so easily? You? A little guy who has just become a Grade 1 Supreme God and only has the combat power of a Grade 4 Supreme God because of some special law skills? Are you going to be my punchline for the next 100 years? Come. I'm standing right here. Come and kill me. Becky stood on the spot in a grandiose manner, looking like he could do whatever he wanted. When Zhou Fight saw this, he suddenly raised the Zhuanyuan divine sword above his head. Boom! A terrifying god spirit pressure erupted from him. Grade 1, Supreme God Law Skill, King. Zhou Fight's strength was instantly raised to the quasi-supreme will realm. Boom! Another even more terrifying nomological pressure erupted from him. Grade 1 Supreme God Law Skill, Myriad Methods, Star Palm. After 5 times, the power of a total of 155 supreme gods was all added to this sword at this moment. Layers of ripples suddenly appeared around the blade of the Zhuanyuan divine sword. Then it shattered with a bang. When Lord of 10,000 Evils saw this, his eyes almost popped out. When the Lord of 10,000 Evils saw this, his eyes almost popped out. This was definitely the strength of a quasi-supreme will realm expert. Furthermore, even among all existences at the quasi-supreme willpower realm, Brother Common People's regal sword was definitely considered relatively strong. Compared to the heavenly blade that he had seen previously, the current Zhou fight was not inferior to him at all. In fact, he might even surpass him. When did the strength of the Brother Common People's regal reach such a terrifying height? The Lord of 10,000 Evils was extremely shocked. At the same time, Becky could naturally sense the terrifying power contained within the Zhuanyuan divine sword in Zhou Fight's hand. If this sword was really released, it would definitely have an earth-shattering power. What terrified Becky even more was the unconcealed killing intent emanating from the Common People's regal. This guy really wanted to kill him. How dare he? Wasn't he afraid that the Crimson Overlord would punish him? Why, did the Supreme Will choose a lunatic to be the Supreme Lord's reserve army? Becky was a little flustered. However, he was a Scarlet Supreme Warrior after all. He still had some trump cards in his hands, so he was not afraid of Zhou Fight's attack. He didn't even move. He just stayed, where he was, wanting to see if Zhou Fight really dared to attack him. It might be a good thing if he really dares to attack me. I might be able to take this opportunity to get rid of this guy, Becky thought. He sensed the trump cards in his world rings and felt more confident. At this moment, Zhou Fight had finally accumulated his momentum. Then he tightened his grip on the Zhuanyuan divine sword in his hand and slashed it down at Becky. Grade 1, Supreme God Law Skill, Myriad Methods, Star Palm. The sword fell. He saw a golden sword shadow slashing towards Becky. This golden sword shadow was branded with various laws, innate strength, skill strength, bloodline strength. Those were abilities that he had replicated from every subject under him through the Myriad Methods, Star Palm. Now, all of them were gathered on this sword, and their power had increased by 5 times. The sword strike was earth-shattering. Becky's pupils constricted, and he immediately took out his weapon. It was a blood-red scythe named Blood Supreme Demonic Scythe. It was a half-holy artifact bestowed upon him by the Crimson Overlord. As soon as this half-holy artifact was taken out, a thin layer of blood mist covered a radius of 100,000 light-years around the Blood Supreme Demonic Scythe. Within the range of the blood mist, Becky's strength had once again increased. The strength of the Blood God Army soldiers under him had also greatly increased. Empire-tier soldiers were comparable to Divine Kingdom soldiers. Divine Kingdom soldiers were comparable to Supreme soldiers. Supreme soldiers were comparable to peak Supreme soldiers. Roar! All the blood gods could not help but roar when they felt their improvement. Slash! Becky waved the Blood Supreme Demonic Scythe in his hand and slashed at the golden sword shadow that Zhou Fight was swinging at him. The two sides quickly collided and produced a shocking explosion that tore the ultimate void apart. In the next second, Zhou Fight and Becky disappeared almost at the same time and appeared in front of each other at the same time. Bang, 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 bang. The two of them began to fight in close combat. You slash, you dodge, I move, you teleport, I chase. You use law skills to attack, I use law skills to defend and counterattack. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged less than 100 blows. Let me help you. The Lord of 10,000 Evils seized the opportunity and prepared to join the battlefield. Brother Demon Lord, you don't have to come over. Go and help our army. Not only does the other party have Becky's quasi-supreme willpower combat power, but they also have another quasi-supreme willpower combat power. Zhou Fight's voice suddenly sounded in Lord of 10,000 Evils' mind. The Lord of 10,000 Evils was shocked and hurriedly looked at the battlefield where his soldiers were fighting. As expected, another Scarlet Supreme God with the strength of a quasi-supreme will was recklessly attacking the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's God Spirit Army and the 1,000 Evil Army's God Spirit Army. If not for the fact that the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's God Spirit Army had long noticed this guy and sent 4 Supreme Gods with full Grade 4 Supreme God artifacts to surround this guy and prevent him from causing more damage and killing, they would have long suffered huge losses. However, even with the siege of 4 Grade 4 Supreme Gods who were fully equipped with divine artifacts, they were actually unable to suppress this fellow. This guy had actually suppressed these 4 grade 4 supreme gods, even though he was fighting 4 of them alone and had already severely injured 2 of them. All right, I'll go over. Immediately, when the Lord of 10,000 Evils heard that Zhou Fight was actually fighting, he had the remaining energy to remind him. He immediately knew that the other party still had energy and did not need his support. On the other hand, reinforcements were urgently needed on the battlefield. Without another word, he immediately rushed to the battlefield and fought with the Scarlet Supreme God, who had the strength of a quasi-supreme will. Haha, is that all you've got? Becky couldn't help but laugh wildly when she saw that the common people's regal had been unable to attack her for a long time. This Blood Supreme Demonic Scythe was one of his strongest trump cards. He didn't believe that common people's regal could defeat him, who had the Blood Supreme Demonic Scythe. Zhou Fight did not speak and continued to attack crazily. Meanwhile, Becky was also using the Blood Supreme Demonic Scythe to defend and counterattack frantically. More than an hour later, Becky felt less than 50% of the Supreme God's divine power in his body and was sweating profusely. Another 2 hours passed, and Becky felt that there was less than 5% of his supreme divine power left in his body and completely panicked. When he saw that common people's regal's attacks did not decrease in the slightest, he suddenly realized a problem. Could this guy's supreme divine power be endless? Why hadn't it been used up yet?